Today's episode is for those of you who not only survived narcissistic abuse, but were also betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you, your own family. You may have questions that still haunt you, like, why did your family believe the narcissist? Why did your family take their word over yours? Why didn't your family actually ask you what happened? If you've ever asked those questions of yourself, either quietly in your head or maybe even crying at night, then you might think that this episode was actually written for you. Because this pain, it's a kind of betrayal that cuts in a way that's so hard to explain, and sometimes it hurts worse than what the narcissist actually did. Let's start with what we know. Narcissists are masters at charm, in public anyway. They know exactly what image to project. They're attentive, funny, and even vulnerable when it suits them. So when you leave, it looks confusing to everybody else. It's no surprise that the narcissists beat you to the story. They go to your family and they're telling everybody that they're worried about you, that you're unstable, that you abandoned them, or that you changed. And sometimes your family actually believes them. I'm not talking about strangers at the narcissist encounters or acquaintances. I'm talking about your own family, the people who've known you your entire life. And then all of a sudden, they look at the narcissist and they see the truth there, and they look at you and all they see is drama. There's so many reasons why your family, though, might actually believe the narcissist's version of events. Now, sometimes, and very likely, it's because the narcissist is good at manipulating. They know exactly how to sound concerned, how to play the victim, and how to say just enough to seem believable. Sometimes the family never truly saw who you were in the first place. They saw what they wanted to see, and then that made the lie just easier to accept. And sometimes I guess it's just easier for the family to believe the narcissist's story because it's more comfortable than having to face the truth that somebody that they trusted hurt somebody that they loved. Let's take Annie, for example. When she left the marital home, she didn't spiral out of control. She enrolled in school. She was rebuilding her life so she could make the life that she wanted for herself and her daughter. She was doing what she had to do so that she never had to rely so heavily, anyway, on someone ever again. But the story that her husband told was quite different. He said Annie walked away because she just wasn't satisfied being a wife and a mother. He said that she thought that she was too good for the life that she had. He framed her courage as selfishness and made her strength sound like abandonment. And without asking Annie what really happened, the family believed him. Now, whether it was charm, the timing, or just the discomfort of asking hard questions, it was easier to side with the mask than look beneath it. And Annie was left standing on the outside of her own story. If anything like this has ever happened to you, you weren't just surviving a toxic relationship. You were surviving betrayal from people who should have had your back. People who should have known better. People who knew you, and that yet they still turned away. That's a heartbreak most people don't talk about. But here we do. Because here your experience is real. Your story matters. And if your family never asked for your side of it, I will. I believe you. And if it ever feels right to share a piece of your story here, even if it's just a moment in time, you're welcome to do that in the comments. I read every comment and I'm listening and I'm going to listen to you. One of the hardest parts of all of this, you might never get the acknowledgement that you want. You may never hear a family member say, "I'm sorry, I just got it all wrong." But you know what? You don't have to keep living in the shadow of their silence. And while it's painful when that distance comes from family, you're allowed to protect your peace. Now, that doesn't mean turning your back on the people that you love, turning your back on your family. No, it means turning your heart toward people who will treat you with care, who see you clearly. Well, maybe that looks like one close friend who really gets you. Maybe that looks like a support group. Maybe it's a community like this one. The point is that you get to choose who gets access to the most sacred parts of your story. If this episode brought something up for you, I want you to know you're not alone. If your story was rewritten without your voice, that doesn't make it true. If your name was dragged through the mud by someone who wore a mask, it doesn't make it right. And if your own family chose not to ask you what happened, that failure is theirs, not yours. If you see yourself in this story, in Annie's courage, in her quiet strength, you're welcome to say with us, "I am Annie." Not because you're becoming someone else, but because you live something that deserves to be named. Annie just doesn't stand for the one who left, the one who walked away. Annie stands for the one who knew the truth and lived it anyway. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being brave, for being you, and for all of you, or for those of you who are new to this podcast. I'm Kyle Hackley, attorney and author of Undercurrent, the story about Annie, a young woman who found the courage to break away, to break free from her narcissistic marriage. And I want to remind you, Annie isn't just one person. Annie is anyone who's ever experienced narcissistic abuse. And it's because of Annie that I feel like I know you and that I can speak to you the way I do. Annie suffered all the things we talk about here. And her story, the courage she found, the healing that she fought so hard for, it's the reason why this podcast exists. I want you to know that you are stronger than you ever believed. You are a warrior against narcissistic abuse. And I want you to be tenacious and never give up on what's important to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for always showing up. And until next time, I want you to know I see you and I honor your truth. And you are not alone. Thank you again. Bye.